What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy, Cam ATL, and welcome back to another MLB High Five video with your boy. Drop a like down below, comment anything in the comment section, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Excited to get into this High Five. Still on the, we had a sweep day the other day where we swept Prize Picks, we swept MLB. It was fantastic, and then we went back to taking the L yesterday. Just like every single beginning of every single sport year, it's been a slow start to MLB. But literally, baseball started April 27th. April 7th, and it's April 25th. Like, we haven't even been going a month. You know what I mean? Like, we've only been going, like, what, 3 weeks? A little over two. So it's like, at the end of the day, we're still in the very beginning stages. And it's rough in the beginning stages of any sport because you got to kind of see how things are going to go for the new season. We're starting to slowly but surely accumulate enough of the 2022 season to kind of have an idea of how things are going to go. And things are going to get a lot easier as time goes on. And I'm excited for what's coming. All right, let's go ahead and get straight into this. I'm not going to keep up too much of your time. Greenlightdfs.com if you want to take advantage of all the content we have at Greenlight DFS. We have the lines, we have the optimizers, we have the player prop tools, all that good stuff. So go ahead and check that out, grab your membership, and let's get it. Starting off at pitcher for today. Now, it kind of just depends how you like the value. My favorite pitcher on the slate is Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer and Corbin Burns are the two top guys, if you need to spend up, that are the spend up options today. Now, here's the deal. There are a couple mid-range guys and lower mid-range guys that I really like today, and I feel like are solid mid-range guys to be able to get you those high upside bats. And those are the guys that I'm going to put in the high five. So I want it to be known, Scherzer and Burns, if you have the money, these guys are always going to be in play. So if you have fantastic value, we're going to talk about a couple that I like so far. But if you have fantastic value and you end up just having extra money for no reason, then going up from one of these guys I'm going to mention to a Scherzer or a Burns is completely fine. I prefer Scherzer because he's almost 1,000 less than Burns. But at the end of the day, either way is fine. I'm going to go Kyle Gibson against Colorado on the road. We know how they are when they're away. They have been a solid offense so far this year, not too bad. But Kyle Gibson is a solid option at 6'8". And then Jose Berrios. Jose Berrios is only 5'5". He's been pretty solid so far this year, and this Boston offense hasn't been anything to be too scared about so far. The only Boston bat I really am worried about is Devers in this one. I like Devers a little bit, but at the end of the day, Jose Berrios is in a solid spot. He's only 5'5", and going with his value and his value that he gives you on the slate today really allows you to kind of build your bats however you want to go. And at the end of the day, Toronto is favored here against Boston. Kyle Gibson's in a very favored spot. Like, Philly and Toronto are two solid performing offenses that should give them some run support and good spots to get the W as well here. So Kyle Gibson, Jose Berrios, solid prices, highly favored spot, should be able to hit the value that we're looking for here. All right, and both of these guys are at home as well at their prices. So, solid spot. All right, now, let's go ahead and talk bats. Now, one thing that I haven't done this year so far that I did majority of last year eventually is just kind of have fun with it. Like, the night before, I'll go on and I'll look at the slate. I'll kind of go through the slate and I'll kind of mark guys that my gut's on and that I really like, and kind of just give gut calls on guys throughout each position, and kind of just, exclude some of the guys that I'm not feeling. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, with all my research throughout the day, I can find a reason to play damn near anyone. You know what I mean? There's always some type of stat that you could find that would be like, oh, he's a good play, whereas these other spots might tell you he's not, but this one stat, you hang on to it as you're researching through the day and you play him even though you probably shouldn't have. At the end of the day, sometimes over-researching can be a negative thing. And I spend all day researching things to put everything in the best spot, and that's just not the best way to go in the beginning of a season because there's only so much information you have, and most of it's from last season, and a lot of things are new this year. You know what I mean? So pitchers are pitching different. Hitters are changing up their swing. There's so much different, like I have said, that you really kind of got to go back to the basics, and that's where the success will come from. And that's where a lot of my success came last year, is when I would just spend the night before, kind of break down, kind of put a player pool together where I kind of just stick in this core of guys and I don't let myself drift off to the other areas. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what I've done for today. So let's go ahead and talk about core guys. I'm going to go ahead and put the high five in, but I'll talk about other core guys that I like throughout while we go position by position. All right, so first and foremost, throughout my looking, at first base, Freddie Freeman is my go-to. Freddie Freeman's in the best spot for me, honestly. He's facing Kelly, who does struggle a little bit versus lefties. Overall, he's not a bad pitcher, but he has struggled so far this year versus lefties. Freddie Freeman has been lights out. Not only has he been lights out this year, he's been just playing fantastic. And I cry every time I see his name because I miss him for the Braves. I really do. But at the end of the day, my boy Freddie Freeman is balling this year. Plain and simple, he's balling. On top of that, his BVP and his success rate against Kelly throughout his career has been very solid. So all the boxes check for me here on Freddie Freeman. I absolutely love him. He's one of my main guys that I'm going to be going with today, and I'm going to go ahead and lock him in to the high five because Freddie Freeman's a guy that I really have interest in. Other guys, Rhys Hoskins, Vladimir Guerrero. A value that I really, really love today is going to be Josh Naylor. I need to update his projection. I was looking at him earlier and didn't update that for some reason. But Josh Naylor is a guy that I really like, as long as he's in the lineup. Make sure he's in the lineup, but he should be in the lineup. Naylor has been smashing right-handed pitching. He's in a fantastic spot. Could bat at the 4 or 5 range here in this Cleveland offense. Lorenzen's not horrible, but this Cleveland total's decent. And they're expecting Cleveland to put some runs up, and Naylor should be a part of that at 2-5. He's really been hitting the ball very, very well, and he's another guy on my cores that I really like at first base. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Next guy that I want to talk about, I got to get a Philly guy in here. A guy that I've really, really loved today is Jean Segura. Jean Segura is in a fantastic spot here, okay? Once again, not only is BVP check marking that box for me, but so far this year he has been solid versus lefties. Last year he was solid versus lefties. Now he gets to go against Freeland, who struggles bad versus righties, especially this year he's been dominated versus righties. So righties of Philly are 100% in play. I'm not too interested in lefties. I'm not going to pay the Bryce Harper money to get Bryce Harper versus a lefty. He hasn't even been hitting them very well this year or last year. Not worried about Bryce Harper. Not going to spend that money regardless of the Vegas total. I'm not going to, do that. I'm going to grab the righties. You know what I mean? And Jean Segura is a guy that really sticks out to me here. He, like I said, his performance has been really showing out versus lefties. He's only 4.7 in a top team total today, as well as the Dodgers, by the way. And he's just in a fantastic spot. BVP says he sees Freeland well. His batting average so far this year and his OPS has been solid versus lefties. Last year has been solid versus lefties. Plain and simple, Jean Segura is in a fantastic spot. Other guys at second base that I could consider for sure is going to be Max Muncy. I like Max Muncy a lot. My second base player pool is not very big. Max Muncy and Jean Segura are going to be the guys that I'm really locking in on. All right, let's go to the outfield. Now, there's multiple spots that I could really lock in here, and a guy that just screaming to me right now that I'm really, really liking, that's just a really good price for me, is Michael Brantley. All right, let's talk about Michael Brantley here. All right, Michael Brantley is going against Dunning, who has struggled so bad versus lefties so far this year. I mean, he's got over a 2 whip. He's absolutely getting destroyed by lefties, and Brantley has been fantastic. All right, 339 batting average, 400 wOBA versus righties. He's not a guy who has a crazy high OPS. He's not a Yordan Alvarez, even a Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker, Yordan Alvarez, Michael Brantley, all guys from Houston that I have a ton of interest in against Dunning in Texas. It's just a fantastic spot for these lefty power bats. I love Brantley because of his price at 3.5, and he kind of opens things up and allows you to kind of, have some wiggle room in your lineups today. And this is a guy I wanted to talk about. Another guy around that price range that I like is going to be Cody Bellinger. I talked about Kelly versus lefties not being too great. That Dodger total is right up there with Phillies. Both of these two teams are the main teams you want to get exposure to where you can. So Cody Bellinger at 3.2 gives you a spot in that offense. But yeah, an offense that might get slept on today that are in good spots are these lefties from Houston. Brantley, Tucker, and Alvarez are 3 guys that I really like. And I'm putting Brantley in the high 5 because Brantley has just been so good. He's going to bat at the top of the order. He's just, every single year, he has just been solid versus righties. Just super consistent. He is Mr. Consistent, and he can also hit that home run if he needs to. He doesn't have a huge OPS, but he can also hit that home run. In the way Dunning struggled versus lefties, I could see him really struggling here against Houston today. So Kyle Tucker, Brantley, and Alvarez are guys I really, really like in the outfield. Outside of that, you can also play Naylor, who I talked about at first base. You can also play him in the outfield as a value at 2.5. Castellanos is a guy that pops to me for Philly against Freeland. Mookie Betts for the Dodgers. If you just land on a one-off, it's perfectly fine. Now, Kelly is not a guy I really typically like to pick on versus righties. It's just not like I prefer the lefties here for the Dodgers, but at the end of the day, as a one-off, if you just have the money, you want to pay the 4.9, that's completely fine to go Mookie Betts. He's a solid play today. Outside of that, who else really sticks out to me? Let's see. That's about it, man. I got a smallish, set of guys. Steven Kwan for Cleveland, another lefty against Lorenzen that could be a solid. Steven Kwan has had a solid year versus righty so far. He's really hitting the ball well. He's only 4K, so he's a solid price. Matt Veerley from Philly at 2-3 against Freeland, righty-lefty matchup. Solid spot there as well. So it's just, there's some really solid spots today, man. And I've really lowered my player pool down to a core of guys that's going to make it really easy to just put together my all-time favorite lineup. And I'm going to keep doing that every single day. It just makes things so much more simple, so much more, limiting your options is just the best way. Now, I don't recommend taking teams out of your player pool. Like, the only team I would maybe recommend doing that with is probably St. Louis against Scherzer, San Francisco against Burns maybe. But that would probably be the only two spots. I'm not going to have a ton of LA against Bieber. I get Bieber's velocity's down and he hasn't been as good, but it's still Shane Bieber and we know the talent he possesses, and as the year goes on, he's going to get better. So I'm not super interested in LA as well. But outside of that, everybody's in play. I won't have a ton of guys against my pitchers. You know what I mean? Like, so if I'm playing Berrios, I won't have much Boston, even though I do like Devers. And then if I'm playing Kyle Gibson, I'm not going to have a ton of Colorado either, which I don't have a ton of need for that anyways. So that's the high five. Kyle Gibson, Jose Berrios, kind of mid-range guys that feel really safe to me and really solid for me today. That allows you to get the bats that you want. Freddie Freeman is my overall favorite first baseman. At second base, Gene Segura is my guy. I really love his spot here. He checks all the boxes off for me. And then Michael Brantley in the outfield is kind of just a value guy. Instead of Michael Brantley, you can definitely go Bellinger if you want to. The difference here is that Bellinger is more of a bottom of the order guy. He isn't a higher total than Houston, obviously, but he is a bottom of the order guy. Brantley he's just been hotter so far this year. Bellinger's has not been fantastic. Like, he's had his moments, but he hasn't been fantastic last couple years versus righties. So he's in a solid spot numbers-wise. It looks okay, and he's definitely in the player pool. He's an option for sure. If you settle on Bellinger, you could do worse. The dude's got double dong upside any single time they play baseball. But Michael Brantley is a guy who's just, in baseball, you can't get too much more consistent than Michael Brantley. He gets on base, plain and simple. He's been fantastic versus righties this year. He was fantastic versus righties last year. He has a solid history versus the dude, I believe, or was that Alvarez and Tucker that lean BVP better? But either way, Michael Brantley's in a fantastic spot, and Kyle Tucker and Alvarez are two other guys that I would stack if you want to go ahead and get like a sleeper stack going for Houston. Kyle Tucker, Brantley, and Alvarez are like a little three-man stack that I would go with. Obviously, you can add a Bregman in there and those guys, but I prefer targeting the lefties here in this one. For Houston. All right. Thank you guys for joining me as always, man. Let's get to this money. Prize picks and stuff like that will be posted throughout the day as I get them on the NBA Access page and the MLB Access page, whichever way you go. Thank you guys for joining me. Drop that like, subscribe to the channel, and I'm out. Peace. Good luck.